They are notoriously touchy and thin-skinned, and you might detect a microport on their face if you trigger their insecurities before they cover it up with a fierce scowl. If they happen to be a rival, they are easy to bait into an overreaction that reveals something less than tough. The saint. These people are paragon of goodness and purity. They support the best and most progressive causes. They can be very spiritual. They can be very spiritual if they can very spiritual if that is the circles that travel in, or they are above the corruption and compromises of politics, or they have endless compassion for every type of victim. The saintly exterior developed early on as a way to disguise their strong hunger for power and attention for on their strong sensual appetites. The irony is that often by projecting these saintly aura to the ninth degree, they will gain great power, leading a cult or political party. And once they are in power, the shadow will have space to operate. They will become intolerant, railing at the impure, punishing them if necessary. Maximilian Robespierre, nicknamed the Incorruptible, who rose to power in the French Revolution, was just such a type. Under his reign, the guillotine was never busier. They are also secretly drawn to sex, to money, to the limelight, and to what is expressly taboo for their particular saintliness. The strain and the temptation are too much. They are gurus who sleep with their student. They will they will appear the saint in public, but their family or spouse will see the demonic side in private. They are genuine saint out there, but they do not feel to need to publicize their deeds or grab power. To distinguish between the real and the fake, ignore their words and the aura they're projecting, focusing on their deeds and the detail of their life. How much they seem to enjoy power and attention. The astonishing degree of wealth they have accumulated, the number of mysteries, the level of self absorption. Once you recognize this time, do not become a naive follower. Keep some distance. If they are enemies, simply shine a light on the clear sign of hypocrisy. As a variation on this, you will find people who profound a philosophy of free love and anything goes, but in fact they are after power. They prefer sex with those who are dependent on them. And of course anything goes as long as it on their terms. The passive aggressive charmer the passive aggressive charmer. These types are amazingly nice and accommodating when you first meet them, so much so that you tend to let them into your life rather quickly. They smile a lot, they are upbeat and always willing to help. At some point, you may return the favor by hiring them for a job or helping them in their careers. You will detect along the way some cracks in the veneer. Perhaps they make a somewhat critical comment out of the blue, or you hear from friends that they have been talking about you behind your back. Then something ugly occurs, a blow up, some act of sabotage or betrayal, so unlikely that nice, charming person you first befriended. The truth is that these types realizes early on in life that they have aggressive and envious tendency that are hard to control. They want power. They intuit that such inclination will make life hard for them. Over many years, they cultivate the opposite facade. Their niceness has an almost aggressive edge. Through this stratagem, they are able to gain social power. But they secretly resent having to play such a role and be so differently. They can't maintain it under stress or simply worn out of by the effort. They will also lash out and hurt you. They can do this well. They can do this well now that they know you and your weak spots. They will of course blame you for what ensues. Your best defense is to be very wary of people who are too quickly to charm and befriend, too nice and accommodating at first. Such extreme niceness is never natural. Keep your distance and look for some early sign, such as passive aggressive comment. If you notice that somewhat out of character, they indulge in malicious gossip about someone, you can be sure the shadow is speaking and that you will be target of such gossip one day. The fanatic you okay? The fanatic, you are impressed by their fervor in support of whatever cause. They speak forcefully, they allow for no compromise, they will clean things up, restore greatness, they radiate strength and conviction, and because of this, they gain followers. They have a flair for drama and capturing attention, but as the key moment when they could possibly deliver what they have promised, they unexpectedly slip up. They become in indecisive at the wrong moment, or burn themselves out and fall ill, or take such ill-conceived action that it all falls apart. It's as if they have suddenly lost belief or secretly wanted to fail. The truth is that such type have massive insecurities from early on in life. They have doubt about their self-worth. They never felt loved or admired enough. Riddled with fears and uncertainty, they cover this up with a mask of great belief in themselves and in their cause. You will notice in their past some shift in their belief system, sometimes radical. That that is because it is not the particular belief that matter, but the intense conviction, and so they will shift this around to fit the time. Believe in something is like a drug for them, but the doubts return. They secretly know they cannot deliver the goods. And so under stress they become the opposite, indecisive and secretly doubtful. They suddenly fire their assistant and manager to give the impression of action, but unconsciously they are sabotaging themselves with unnecessary change. They have to blow unnecessary. They are sabotaging themselves with unnecessary change. They have to blow it all up somehow and yet blame others. Never be taken in by the strength of people's conviction and their flair for drama. Always operate by their rule that the greater the string, stridency in what they say, the deeper the underlying insecurities and doubts. Do not become a follower. They will make a fool of you. The rigid rationalist, All of us have irrational tendency. It is a lasting legacy of our primitive origin. We will never get rid of them. We are prone to superstition or to see connection between events that have no connection. We are fascinated by coincidences. We we anthropomorphize and project our feeling onto other people and the world around us. We secretly consult astrology chart. We must simply accept this. In fact, we often resort to irrational as a form of relaxation. Silky jokes, meaningless activities, occasionally dabbling in the occult, always being rational can be tasked. Yeah, definitely. Ask. The rigid rationalist. All of us have a rational tendency. It is the lasting legacy of our primitive origins. We will never get rid of them. We are prone to superstition, to seeing connection between events that have no connection. We are fascinated by coincidences. We ये हो गया था नहीं वाला we anthropomorphize and project our feeling onto other people and the world around us. We secretly consult astrology charts. We must simply accept this. In fact, we often resort to irrationality as a form of relaxation. Silly jokes, meaningless activities, occasionally dabbling in the occult, always being rational can be tiresome. But for some people, this makes them terribly uncomfortable. They experience this primitive thinking as softness, as mysticism, as contrary to science and technology. Everything must be clear and analytical in the extreme. They become devout atheists and not realizing that the concept of God cannot be proven or disproven. It is a belief either way. The repressed, however, always return. Their faith in a science and technology has a religious ear to it. When it comes to an argument, they will impose their ideas with extra intellectual heft and even a tuff of anger which reveal the stirring of the primitive within and the hidden emotional need to bully. At the extreme, they will indulge in a love affair that is most irrational and contrary to their image. The professor running off with the young model, or they will make some bad career choice, or for or fall for some ridiculous financial scheme, or indulge in some conspiracy theory. They are also prone to strange shift in mood and emotional outbursts. As the shadows did, bait them into just such overreactions to prick their bubble of intellectual superiority. True rationality should be sober and skeptical about its own power and not publicize itself. The snob. These types have a tremendous needs to be a different from others to assert some form of superiority over the mass of mankind. They have the most refined aesthetic taste when it comes to art or film criticism or fine wines or gourmet food or vintage punk rock record. They have amassed impressive knowledge of these things. They put a lot of emphasis on appearances. They are more alternative than other. They put a lot of emphasis on appearances. They are more alternative than other. Their tattoos are more unique. In many cases, they seem to come from very interesting background. Hmm. Perhaps with some exciting ancestor, everything surrounding them in extraordinary. Of course, it later comes out that they were exaggerating or downright lying about their background. Beau Brummel, the notorious snob and dandy of the early 19th century, actually came from a staunch middle class background, the opposite of what he peddled. The family of Carl Lagerfeld, the current channel creative director, did not inherit money but made it in the most bourgeois fashion, contrary to the stories he has told. What do you find appealing about something? What do you find appealing about streaming? Oh, streaming. Okay. What do you find appealing about stream? At a live streaming. You're talking about live streaming. The truth is that banality is a part of human existence. Much of our lives is spent doing the most boring and tedious tasks. For most of us, our parents had normal, unglamorous jobs. We all have mediocre sides to our character and skills. Snobs are especially sensitive about this, greatly insecure about their origin and possible mediocrity. Their way of dealing with this is to distract and deceive with appearances, as opposed to real originality in their work, surrounding themselves with the extraordinary and with special knowledge. Underneath it all is the real person waiting to come out rather ordinary and not so very different. In any case, those who are truly original and different do not need to make a great show of it. In fact, they are often embarrassed by being so different and learn to appear more humble. As an example of this story of Abraham Lincoln, Saxon be extra way of those who go out of their way to make a show of their differences. Yes. What are you actually reading? Akhil, I'm reading Confront Your Dark Side. Chapter name is, and the book name is The Law of Human Nature. Okay, so like you're asking about live streaming. When you start when you start doing daily live streaming, you feel energetic, motivated, and it's and feel happy from inside. It's like a work that we do daily, and because of live stream, I was uh, what do I say? I was able to complete this thick book, so that I'm interested in this book more and more. Now you got your answer. The extreme entrepreneur. At first, Glenn, these types seem to possess very positive qualities, especially for work. They maintain very high standard and pay exceptional attention to detail. They are willing to do much of the work themselves. If If mixed with talent, this often leads to success early on the life, but underneath the facade, the seeds of failure are taking root. The first appear in their inability to listen to others. They cannot take advice, they need no one. In fact, they mistrust other why do not have their same high standard. With success, they are forced to take on more and more responsibility. If they were truly self reliant, they would know the importance of delegating on a lower level to maintain control on the higher level. But something else is stirring within the shadow. Soon the situation becomes chaotic. Others must come in and take over the business. Their health and finances are ruined, and they become completely dependent on doctors or outside financiers. They go from complete control to total dependency on others. Think of the pop star Michael Jackson near the end of his life. Often their outward show of self reliance disguise a hidden desire to have others take care of them, to regress to the dependency of childhood. They can never admit this to themselves, to show any sign of such weakness. But unconsciously they are drawn to creating enough chaos that they break down and are forced into some form of dependency. They are signed for beforehand. Recurring health issue, the sudden micro needs to be pampered by people in their daily life. The sudden micro needs to be pampered by people in their daily life, but the big sign comes as they lose control and fail to take a step to the halt this. It is the best to not get too entangled with such type later on in their careers, as they have a tendency to bring about much collateral damage. The integrated human. In the course of our lives, we inevitably meet people who appear to be especially comfortable with themselves. They display certain traits that help give them impression they are able to laugh at they are able to laugh at themselves. They can admit to certain coming at their character a well as to mistake they have made. They have a playful, sometimes impatient edge to them, as if they have retained more of the child within. They can play them role in life with a little bit of distance. At times they can be charmingly spontaneous. What such people signal to us, is a greater authenticity. If most of us have lost a lot of our natural trait in becoming socialized adults, the authentic types have somehow managed to keep them alive and active. We can contrast them easily with the opposite type, people who are touchy, who are hypersensitive to any perceived slight, and who give the impression of being somewhat uncomfortable with themselves and having some time to hide. and having something to hide. We humans are master at smelling the difference. We can almost feel it with people in their non-verbal behavior, the relaxed or tense body language, the flowing or halting tone of voice, the way the eyes gaze and let you in, the genuine smile or lack of it. Or lack of it. One thing is for certain, we are completely drawn to the authentic types and unconsciously repelled by their opposite. The reason for this is simple. We all secretly mourn for the child part of our character. We have lost the wildness, the spontaneity, the intensity of experience, the open mind, our overall energy is diminished by the laws. Those who emit that air of authenticity signal to us another possibility, that of being an adult who has managed to integrate the child and the adult, the dark and the light, the unconscious and the conscious mind. We yearn to be around them. But if some of their energy will rub off on us, if Richard Nixon in many ways epitomizes the inauthentic time, we find many examples of opposite to inspire us. In politics, men like Winston Churchill and Abraham Lincoln; in the art, people like Charlie Chaplin and Josephine Baker; in science, someone like Albert Einstein; in social life, in general, someone like Jacqueline Kennedy on Onassis. And these types indicate for us the path to follow, which largely centered on self awareness. Conscious of our shadow, we can control, channel, and integrate it. Aware of what we have lost, we can reconnect to that part of ourselves that has sunk into the shadow. The following are four clear and practical steps for achieving this. See the shadow. This is the most difficult step in the process. The shadow is something we deny and repress. It is so much easier to dig up and moralize about the dark qualities of other. It is almost unnatural for us to look inward at this side of ourselves. But remember that you are only half a human if you keep this buried. Be intrepid in this process. The best way to begin is to look for indirect sign as in the indicated in the sections above. For instance, take note of any particular one-side emphatic trait in yourself. Assume that the opposite trait lies buried deep within, and from there try to see more sign of this trait in your behavior. Look at your own emotional outburst and moments of extreme touchiness. Somebody or something has struck a chord. Your sensitivity to a remark or imputation indicate a shadow quality that is steady. In the form of deep insecurity, bring it into the light. Look deeply at your tendency to project emotions and bad quality onto people you know, or even the entire group. For instance, say you really loathe narcissists types or pussy people. What is happening is that you are probably brushing up against your own narcissist tendencies and secret desire to be more assertive in the form of vehement denial or hatred. We are particularly sensitive to traits and weaknesses in others that we are repressing in ourselves. Look at moments in your youth, late teens, early 20s, in which you acted in a rather insensitive, or even cruel manner. When you were younger, you had less control of the shadow and it came out more naturally, not with the repressed force of later years. Later in his career, the writer Robert Blee, born in 1926, began to feel depressed. His writing had become sterile. He started to think more and more about the shadow side of his character. He was determined to find sign of it and unconsciously scrutinize it. Blee was the bohemian type of artist, very much active in the con- counterculture of the 1960s. His artistic root went back to the were back to the romantic artist of the early 19th century. Men and women who extol spontaneity and naturalness. In much of Blee's own writing, he railed at advertising men and business people as he saw it. They were so calculating, planning everything to be extreme, afraid of the chaos of life, and quite manipulative. And yet, as he looked inward, Blake could catch glimpse of such calculating, manipulative qualities in himself. He too secretly feared moment of chaos in life, like to plan things out of control, and even he could be quite malicious with people he perceives to be so different, but in fact, there was a part of the stockbroker and advertising man with him. Perhaps it was the deeper part of himself. Others told him that they saw him as rather classical in his taste and in his writing, constructing things well, something that bothered him, since thought the opposite. But as the people increasingly honest with himself, he realized they were right. People can often see our shadow better than we can, and it would be wise to elect their frank opinion on the subject. Step by step, he unearthed dark qualities within rigid, overly moralized, moralistic, etc. And in doing so, he felt reconnected with the other half of his physics, of his psychic. He could be honest with himself and channel the shadow creatively. His depression lifted as well as a writer's block. So bye bye everyone. That's all for today's. Thank you and bye bye.